Thanks for having me here. For those who don't know, we just got a little bit of an insight there. My name's Sam Squiers. I'm actually a Channel 9 sports presenter up in Queensland. I'm also the founder and the editor of the Women in Sports site, Australia's only independent women in sports site, Sportette. And I'll start by saying women don't like sport. It's a bit confusing there because I'm a female sports reporter. I'm seeing lots of females in clubs here representing their sports clubs. We've got female players, female coaches, female umpires, female administrators in sport. We've got females in the stands in sport. And well, I don't know about you, but my 91-year-old grandma sits down on a weekend. She flicks between the AFL, the golf and the tennis and then back to her beloved AFL again. But women don't like sport. Strange as it may be, but this is something that I've been told my entire career. Women don't like sport, Sam, and I've been fighting it my whole entire career. In the news, I'd go into my morning meetings and I'd have this amazing, awesome ripper story on a female in sport, and then my news directors would tell me, Sam, no, women don't like sport. I'd go on, I'm always on my little soapbox in our newsroom because I'm the only female in my sports department. I'm always on that sports soapbox talking about equality in sport, and I'd be hit back, but yeah, women don't like sport. And then even our ratings would drop in sport. We've got minute-by-minute ratings at Channel 9, and they'd drop during sport, and I'd be told it's because the female viewers are turning off because, Sam, women don't like sport. So let's take a look at the figures, shall we? First, I'm going to start with cricket because I think cricket, along with AFL, is really leading the way in promoting their women's game. So women and girls now make up 24% or 315,000 of all cricket participants. TV audiences are up to 40%, almost half all female. Cricket attendances are 1 in 4 to about 1 in 2. That's half of all audiences and crowd numbers in cricket are female. BBL matches, of course, they are the most popular with female, and they're pretty much at half all female attendance. It goes over the page. Women's Big Bash League was introduced and launched last year by Cricket Australia, and it had an average audience. It was on, not on Channel 9, unfortunately, it was on Channel 10. At first, they didn't put it on their main program, they put it on their main channel, they put it on one of their secondary channels. It had an average audience of 231,000 with the Heat versus Strikers, my team, the Heat, 427,000 viewers. Now in TV terms, we're impressed with that, but for those that aren't in TV, let's put it in a little bit of perspective. The first 2 WBBL games had 3 times the number of A-League TV audiences in that same time slot. It outrated the men's domestic, the Pura One-Day Cup cricket. So it outrated the domestic men's cricket and the NBL TV audience. This was just in the first year. This is just the first 2 games that they whacked on the TV. You know what happened then? Channel 10 got excited. Channel 10 then whacked it. They said, we want more women's games. Let's broadcast more of the women's games. Let's do all the semis. Let's do the final. You know what? Let's put it on our main channel. That was a big deal. You know what happened then? Channel 9 went, oh, hang on, Channel 10's put the women's on. We've got the Southern Stars on Channel 9 at the end of the Women's Big Bash League. You know what? We were going to put it on our secondary channel on 9Gem or 9Go. Hey, let's put it on our main channel. Success breeds success. I'll talk about that as well. Close to 13,000 people were at the MCG for the WBBL game on New Year's Day. Another 372,000 watched it on TV. Let's move on to this way, NRL. NRL, I must admit, is lacking behind. NRL, okay, I'm from Queensland and New South Wales, don't hold it against me, but NRL is our big league here. And off the back, we've seen what AFL has been able to do, and I'll go into that. NRL is lagging behind at the moment and playing a little bit of catch up, but still they say that female participation is the fastest growing area of the game. 482,000 female participants across touch, tag and league. The 2,000 female coaches, referees and trainers, and 2 NRL referees running the line in the NRL games at the moment in the main game. I think it's Casey Badger and Belinda Sleeman. AFL, 2 AFL commissioners, 26 board members, including 1 president and 2 vice presidents. This is from 2015 figures. 2 AFL executives, 3 AFL. You can see why NRL is playing catch up now. Like, well, shivers, what is AFL doing? 3 AFL goal umpires. In 2015, 318 1,000 female players. Female participation, like cricket, makes up a quarter of all the participation, and that's up from 19% the year before. This is my favourite figure. Participation has increased 28,000% in the last decade. 163 new female teams were established just in 2015. We haven't even launched the Professional Women's League just yet. And the women's exhibition match, which was on in between the finals and the regular season, had 1.05 million viewers. It was the highest rating match of the entire year. And I'm talking, it outrated, had more viewers than the men's match. The hashtag AFL Women's Game was the 7th most tweeted topic worldwide. On top of that, at the moment, Mamma Mia is just about to launch a sports section, because Mamma Mia is probably the most read or popular women's website in Australia at the moment. And so they surveyed over 30,000 of their women to say, what do you want from our site now? What is it you want to see more of? And they were shocked, but what they came back with, women wanted to see more sport on Mamma Mia, because women don't like sport, women love sport. And sport needs women, because here's what's happened. This idea, what I've been told my entire career, and I'm sure a lot of you have been told as well, women don't like sport. It's almost really polluted the sporting landscape for so long. For generations we've been told this, men have been telling themselves this, women have been believing it. And really we need to clean up all that damage that it's been done. We need a clear air solution, because sport, I'm sorry, but you need women. And why do you need women? Women are now, we're financially independent, we're professionals, we work full time. Women, in the most family situations, they hold the purse strings. They are the main decision makers in that household. If they want to go to a game or if they want to play club fees, the women a lot of the time have a lot of the power in a family to say, I don't think that's the right area where we should be putting our money, or let's not pay to go see that game. Women also make up 50% of the population. Surprise. We're 50%. We're half the population. Ignoring us is ignoring 50% of your potential target market. We are the bums on your seats at games. We are the eyeballs on your TV screens. We are also the people that will pay for memberships at your club. 50%. I'm new to business, but I think that makes bad business sense to ignore 50% of your potential target market. You know what happens when you encourage and build a relationship up with women from a really early age as well? That women start to form a relationship from an early age with your sport. They build that relationship up, they start playing from a young age, or they get interested from a young age. When they hit puberty and it's no longer popular or cool to play sport, because that dropout zone when girls are tweens at 11 to 17 is so high. If you've built that relationship up with women throughout that time, more likely that they'll stick with your sport. They'll keep playing. If they keep playing, you know what girls do? We talk to our friends. We get our friends involved as well. We build that relationship up. Your sport has a bad headline. NRL's got a few. AFL's had a few as well. If you've built that relationship up with women over a long period of time, grassroots level, they're likely not to turn their back on that sport. They're likely to support your sport through the hard times as well as the goods. When they have kids of their own, guess what? If you've had a relationship with that woman, she's likely to be able to get her sons, her daughters involved with your sport as well. So it filters down to other members of the family. And you know what's the best thing? You hold on to the women, you hold on to the men. So how many times, and we've talked about it before in the previous sessions, you hear someone drop out of a membership or not play a round of golf or not sign up for the next season because they want to spend more time with the family. If this is a sport where the female's also involved in that sport, it's likely that the male will stay in that sport as well. Your numbers will increase, they won't decrease as so many of them do. How to get women involved in your game then. I've said why women are so powerful and why it is important to have women involved and why they are the secret of your sports survival. So how do we get women involved in the game? It starts with dispelling this myth that women don't like sport. It starts with changing your club's culture. I've got a bit of a story for you because I love golf. I love it. I've only just started in it. I'm a late starter to golf, but I'm obsessed with it. So obsessed, I'm actually an ambassador. I'm very lucky of Brookwater Golf Club up in Brisbane. An ambassador, there are only 4 ambassadors. I'm the only female ambassador. I'm not bragging here. I'm just giving you a little bit of a background into this story. So as part of that deal, I get free golf. I get to go out on this great golf course and play free golf. As part of that deal, I get to take my husband along with me. Pretty lucky guy, I always tell him. So he gets to come along and play golf with me. We're out at Brookwater Golf Course the other day. Not many females on the golf course, not many females my age, a lot of retirees, we'll talk about that later, on the golf course. And there was this group of old men in front of us. I'm okay with calling them old men in front of us. We kept catching up to them, but we were just enjoying our time on the golf course. We let them go. Anyway, by the time we hit the 19th green, and they were waiting outside the pro shop and outside the clubhouse, the 4 of them together, and Ben and I, my husband and I, drove up in our buggy and past them. We've been talking to them the whole way, and they yell out, "How'd she hit them then?" I'm sorry? I'm just here. You can ask me how my round of golf was going. My husband's like, "Oh, here we go again." It's going to happen. He goes, and I kept quiet because I'm like, I'm just going to see what happens here. And he goes, "Yeah, good. She outdrove me on a couple of them." That'd cost you the dishes tonight, wouldn't it? My gosh, almost furious. I'm just going to let it go, not make a scene. But the idea there was that I was just a tag-along, just the female tag-along, tagging along to a husband. I'm the ambassador. He's tagging along because of me. But that club culture of golf, and Jesus, golf, I love you, but geez, are you in the 50s or what? You wonder why your golf numbers, participation numbers across the whole of Australia, I'm sorry if you have representatives of golf here, but actually listen, your participation numbers over the last 5 years have dropped 7%. 7%. People are dropping out of golf clubs and they're shutting down across Australia at an astronomical rate. The average age of a male golfer is 53. The average age of a female golfer is 62. Math's not my strong subject. 9 years. 62. That's incredible. And you wonder why when you have a culture like that that immediately says the females just the tag along and females aren't welcome. I may be ambassador there, but I feel uncomfortable every time I go in there. I don't see other females about there. I don't feel welcome. They talk to my husband. They don't talk to me. And that is the problem with golf. I like it as well because I was recently talking to a club because they were talking to me. They're like, "Oh, you got to join," I'll name them, Brisbane Golf Club. You got to join Brisbane Golf Club. I'm like, okay, I'll let you know. I'm pretty passionate about equality in sport. So you got to know that. I'm not going to keep my mouth shut if I find something that I don't quite like. They said, "Oh, no, you'll find us very progressive here." I said, okay, well, do you let women play on Saturdays? Because most golf courses won't let women play on Saturdays. I love it. I'll come play around. Nice. Won't let women play on Saturdays. Royal Queensland up in Brisbane only just allowed women to become full members. They had to become associate members. And that only happened just a couple of months ago after a lot of media pressure. So when allow women to play on Saturdays, the idea is the men have always played on the weekends and then the women, they have their days on a Tuesday, their comp days. But really women work Monday to Friday, just like the men do. Why can't we play? And I said, can women play on Saturdays? Brisbane Golf Club, they said, oh yeah, we're very progressive. We allocate 30 positions for ladies to play on Saturdays. So 30, wow. Okay. So I ask you, what's your club culture like? And it starts with your leadership. It starts at the top. What's your leadership like? How many females have you got involved at the top? Because you know what? If we have more males at the top, we don't have females, they think it's okay to allocate 30 positions on a Saturday for females. I ask you, what's that leadership like? Where are the females in your club? Are you getting them into those leadership roles? The next question I ask you, in your club, what are your facilities like? What facilities are there for females? In Queensland at the moment, I sit on the Queensland Rugby League Women's Advisory Council. And a big thing at the moment is with the clubs, they want to get more women involved in rugby league, but the facilities there are always shaped to the men. So we've had female teams having to change in the car parks because they don't have female change rooms. If they are allowed into those male change rooms that they have in there, they walk in there and there's urinals. There's no separate toilets. There's just one big group shower. There's not singular showers there for the females. So a big part of this, I know it's a big push in Victoria as well, is to get that funding, and funding is available to make your facilities more female friendly. I ask you as well, in terms of the facilities, look at your training times as well. Do the female groups have to fit in around your male groups? Because the males at the moment in Queensland, so a friend of mine's in a really successful women's rugby league club, but they have to train after the men. You know, they work 9 to 5. Well, who works 9 to 5 these days? 9 to 6, 9 to 7 as well. But the men get the more favourable training times and they have to train after the men. On top of that, they were finding that the club was simply forgetting about them and turning the lights off halfway through. So halfway through a training session, they'd be scrambling, trying to find a mobile phone with a light in order to pick their stuff up and end their training session early. So look at that. Do females have to fit in around the males' training times? These are the questions you need to ask yourself. Are you alienating or are you accommodating women in sport in your own club? I talked about the relationship that you have to start with females from a really early age. I don't know about you, but with the females here, things are changing, which is good. But when you were young, who was told girls don't like sport? Who was told that? I was told all the time. I love sport. I couldn't understand it. Girls don't like sport. Girls like dance and reading and ballet and playing Barbies and stuff. They don't like sport. Geez, I'd never take my Nike cap off. Hey, never brush my hair, always had my Nike sports cap on. My mum would try to yank it off at the end of the night. I'd try to sleep with it on. I was a tomboy. I loved sport and there was nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But I always found people thought it was really strange that I was a girl who liked sport. When I became a sports reporter, I even got people thinking it was strange I was a female in sport all the time. Luckily, and we'll talk about exposure, there's more of us out there. I remember being, not even that long ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, being at a cafe in Coogee in Sydney, and I was just sitting there having a coffee and got the paper, do what I do all the time, turn to the back, started reading from the back, and the guy next to me goes, "Oh, you're reading from the back, are you? Oh, you don't find too many women that read the paper that way." I went, "Oh, really? I know a lot, actually." So you need to start that relationship up with girls from a really early age. It's for this reason that I wrote an article, 6 things not to say to little girls. And first of all is like a girl. There's this great clip. You've probably seen it. It went viral. Lots of girls are nodding, yeah. So a film crew asked, it's actually for a tampon company, but we won't go there, it's strange. But the idea behind it is amazing. So they asked little girls, this film crew, they said to teenage girls, they said, "Can you run like a girl?" And they'd run all awkwardly. One of the girls cries out, "Oh, my hair." They said, "Well, can you punch like a girl or fight like a girl?" And they'd like throw kind of pansy-like punches and be like, "Whoa." And like saying that, then they said to prepubescent little girls, "Run like a girl." This girl puts her head down. She starts running eagerly as though she's Kathy Freeman at the 2000 Olympics. Somewhere along the line, we tell girls that like a girl, running like a girl, it becomes an insult. Somewhere along the line, they learn, and it's not natural. They learn that being a girl is somewhat weak. That idea of running like a girl, you have to be weak, inferior. We're teaching our girls this from a really early age. For a girl, I was big into softball when I was little. People used to tell me all the time, "Oh, you throw far for a girl." Recently met one of the Broncos for the first time. I shake his hand. I'm from the country in New South Wales. I shake his hand. He goes, "Oh, you got a strong handshake for a girl?" Well, they're my 3 favourite words, buddy. Got my exclusive from him that day. For a girl, immediately you're telling a girl that in order to have a strong handshake, to throw far, to run fast, is odd, it's strange. You're alienating her from the sport and the passion that she loves straight away. Beaten by a girl. This is said to little boys and little girls, and little boys most often don't get beaten by a girl. "Oh, you got beaten by a girl," as though it's an insult, as though it's something to be ashamed of, as though it's something to be embarrassed about, being beaten by a girl. Immediately when you say that to a little boy, it immediately says by the very notion of his gender, he is superior and that women are weak. It's embarrassing to get beaten by a girl. That's what we're telling our little boys from a really young age. And we wonder why now we have a gender pay gap. We have such a big gender gap in society. These are the language. These are the things we're telling little boys and little girls. And it's really important because it is 6 things not to say to little girls. But if we don't, we can't make social change without involving the other 50% of the population, which is the men. We have to change the way we talk to little boys, the way we talk to men, as well as that. Getting chicked is like beaten by a girl. Oh, you got chicked. Exactly the same. That's something to be embarrassed about. And you know what, guys? In your life, you are going to get beaten by a girl, whether it's in a swimming race, whether it's in a running race, whether it's to a job and an opportunity or at school, you will get beaten by a girl. It's a fact of life. It's not something to be ashamed of and not something to be embarrassed about. I like this one because she's a girl. This is when all those other insults fail. When a girl achieves something, couldn't possibly be on the back of hard work, skill and merit. It has to be because she's a girl. She got an unfair advantage because they want to be able to be equal in some way. They cry out this reverse discrimination, which really only discriminates against girls. These are the things we have to stop saying to girls. Have to stop telling little girls too that girls don't like sport. It's just not true. Don't alienate her from her passion and for her love. Build a relationship up with her from a really young age. You reap the rewards later on. This is all about changing your club's culture. You know how else to do that? Use your voice. A lot of the time women don't like, and I am talking to the women in the room at the moment, we don't like calling something out when someone's done something wrong. Someone says something sexist, someone says something that's inappropriate. We don't want to call them out on it. A lot of women don't because they don't want to be seen as being bitchy or being seen as difficult. But you know what? Nothing will ever change unless you call it out, unless you say that was inappropriate, that was wrong, don't do it again. Don't think of it as confrontation. Think of it as education. A lot of the time men don't even know that they're being inappropriate or something isn't quite right, like the guys at the golf club that think it's okay to have 30 allocations for women on Saturdays. If you don't call it out, no one will know. The louder, the more people that call things out, the louder the call for social change will be. Expose more people to the women's game. The AFL has had so much success in this area. The NRL has had so much success in this area because they have exposed their women's games to men. How have they done that? They started off with having double headers. Men had this idea that women's sport and women's football was slow, it was inferior in some ways. And then they started putting it underneath their noses. They couldn't get the men to go to the women's games. They couldn't get them to switch over channels and watch it. So you know what? They put it underneath their noses. They put it before the men's big games and exposed those guys to those games. I'll never forget when the Gillaroos, the Australian Women's Rugby League team, played the Black Ferns in a game in Auckland with the Auckland Nines over there. Pre-season, I know I'm in Victoria, pre-season tournament over in New Zealand for the NRL, and they broadcast it on Channel 9. The next day, I had so many people say to me, "Oh, Sam, the women, they were so fast. The way they tackled, they were awesome, the skill set." It was like they just discovered Mars or something, like as though some like, well, this is what we've been trying to tell you. It's a great product. That was the first time they'd been exposed to it. They broke down those stereotypes of what the women's games were like. You can take that into your club as well. How can you, I ask you, expose more people to the women's game? Break down those stereotypes within your club. Can you do double headers? Can you normalise women in sport? They're not some alien or different kind of thing. They're a fact of life. There are women in sport. There are women's games. You need to normalise that within your own clubs as much as possible. And think strategically. A lot of the time, I think we'll hear from it later on with the AFL and cricket, this wasn't just a 1 year or 2 year plan that they had to have these professional teams in place in order to be able to grow their women's games. This was a strategic plan built over a decade. You may not reap the rewards in 1 or 2 years' time, but you have to think this strategically. You build a relationship up with a little girl from a young age, you'll reap the rewards later on. Stop thinking of it, because how many times do we hear they're like, "Oh, but women's sports isn't profitable." Well, you know what? That's not true at all. Sponsors will come on board as popular as they are, the more people are exposed to them, the more popular they become. The more they see those girls as role models for little girls as well. Cricket Australia have had an incredible increase in the number of participation rates for little girls off the back of the success that they've had from the Southern Stars and now the Women's Big Bash League. Little girls go, oh, hang on, I relate to that girl. I could be that girl. They have a role model now. And on the back of it, they've seen participation grow. Don't look about what you can get in 1 or 2 years' time. Think about how that could help your club in the future, in 10 years' time. Exposure, and I thought I'd give a little bit of a hand about exposure to the media, because a lot of people maybe don't know how to get the media involved in your sport. You need to pitch a story, not an event. Don't phone the media or email the media saying, oh, we've got our women's team, we've got our women's team playing in a game, or they won 3-0. We want to know about the story about the girls. Thirsty work. Whew. Whoa, stop. We want to know about the people behind it. Sport isn't all about podiums and point scores. It is about people. Instead of pitching that story about, well, the girls won 3-0 on the weekend, tell us about the female in your team. Does she have an incredible or a quirky story? For instance, did she have to overcome big adversities to get where she was? Did she have to overcome cancer and now she's back in the game? Or her great-grandfather was a professional player? I don't know. Think of the people stories that will get people interested, not just pitching an event. Don't assume people aren't interested. Oh, geez, do I have to go through this all the time? The number of times I've phoned a media manager in a professional sport and said, hey, I'd love to do a story on this. And they said, oh, really? I didn't think Channel 9 would be interested. They've just already assumed we're not interested. And that's, I've talked about it with Sportette. A lot of the time, women's sports suffer from Stockholm syndrome, where they're so used to being treated so badly and ignored that they've come to accept that that's just the way it is. And they've almost fallen in love with their captor in some way of being used to being treated so bad. So don't assume people won't consume and they're not interested, because they are. Follow up with an email, with another one, and even a phone call. Use social media creatively. We used to be able to, it's a very powerful medium, new media. So before, what used to happen was really like what went to air and the information that we got here as consumers was defined by a news director's values, his news values. Is that something we want to get out to the media? Now we have a way of showing people what we really want to know about, and people listen, and they have to listen. Those 140 characters with Twitter can be quite impressive. You get a hashtag like AFL Women's Game that is the 7th most tweeted topic worldwide. That kind of sends a big signal. So use social media creatively. Add in when you're sending an email, write your own, take your own photos, take your own video. Try to make it as easy for the journo, pretty simple characters at the end of the day, as possible. Don't make times for the media as well. 5:30, the news is going to air at 6. Newspapers have deadlines as well. Try to find a time that is accessible for the media. Make it as easy as possible. I'll give you a bit of a statistic with adding in photos and video. Cricket, I keep going on about Southern Stars, but between 2011 and 2015, the Southern Stars and Cricket Australia had funding in order to have a media officer specific to the Southern Stars to go travelling with the Southern Stars. They went travelling, they took their own videos, they made up all the information, they sent it back to news organisations. It was there right for the journos. They ate it up. I was working at Sky News at the time. We just cut it all up and put it on our news every half an hour after half an hour after half an hour. Channel 10 did the same, Channel 7 did the same, Channel 9 did the same. In that 4-year period, Cricket Australia saw a 987% increase in the number of media reports that they had on women's cricket. 987%. It's pretty impressive, isn't it? They made it easy for the media. I mean, the girls had success on top of that, but they were constantly telling the media what the girls were doing, filing and giving them videos and making the girls accessible as possible. They didn't assume people wouldn't consume and people wouldn't be interested, and they saw the success on top of that. Bigger than that, they've had an increase in little girls' participation within their sport. In summary, Women are your secret to survival because women don't like sport. Women bloody love sport. We're 50% of the population. Ignoring us is ignoring 50% of your target market. That 50% of people that can be the eyeballs on your screen, the members of your clubs, the bums on your seats, and the people that play your game. You build a relationship up with us from an early age, we'll stay in your sport right throughout our teen years, right through when we have families of our own and then we choose what sports our kids will play. You'll have generations involved with your sport. Our husbands will get involved as well, because make it something that the whole family is involved in and has a connection with. Your numbers will increase, they won't decrease. So how do you get women involved? Dispel that rumour. Women don't like sport. We've said it. They love sport. How do you dispel that myth? You change your club's culture. Ask yourself what your club's culture is like. Changing a club's culture comes from the top in leadership. It comes from the bottom, from the ground, in the facilities that you have. And it starts in the beginning in the way that you tell your little girls how to be involved and your little boys, the language that you use around them about women in sport. Use your voice. The only way to enact social change is to call out injustices, call out wrongs, sexisms, and try to alter outdated stereotypes of what it's like to be women in sport. So I hear a lot of the time people say, we have got a problem with getting women involved in sport. I tell you, women aren't the problem for sport. Simply, women are the solution for your sport. Thank you very much.